The president of El Salvador says, I don't care what the United States Supreme Court says. I'm not returning criminal gang members back to President Trump. President Trump from the Oval Office doesn't seem to care. Whoopi Goldberg of The View says the stupidest thing, and yet her audience cheers. I'll bet you end up booing her. Senator Chuck Schumer starts hinting at reasons to impeach President Trump and says he's looking into investigating the entire Trump family. All of this and much, much more. Thank you so much for liking and sharing these videos with family and friends. It really helps me out, so thank you guys so much. CNN is a bit stunned by President Trump's continued success among the general population. President Trump's post-election momentum has stunned even members of CNN, with commentators admitting he's kicking ass and soaring like an eagle, not waddling like a lame duck president. They're in marvel at his historic delivery on campaign promises, boosts in the U.S. economy and border security, his bold moves slashing regulation, fast-tracking trade deals, and rallying global leaders around America. CNN's begrudging praise underscores Trump's undeniable dominance when it comes to being the president Americans want and the president keeping his promises. Let's go ahead and watch this clip from CNN, and you let me know what you guys think.
I think there was this concern among some folks that Donald Trump would come in for a second term and kind of be a lame duck. He ain't no lame duck. If anything, he's a soaring eagle. What am I talking about here? Let's talk about Trump executive orders in 2025. He's already signed 111 so far. That is the most at this point in a presidency in at least 100 years. In fact, it's the most in any single year, and we're only in April, since Harry S. Truman in the early 1950s. The bottom line is whether you like Trump or you don't like him, you can't say that he's come in and not try to deliver on what he at least believes was his promises on the campaign trail, and he's doing so in historic fashion.
How are people reacting to and feel about Trump's approach?
Yeah, okay. So Trump's approach here, what are we talking about? Trump's approach to presidential power. I think the American people recognize what he's doing here is completely different. We're talking, get this, 86% of the American public believes that Trump's approach to presidential power is completely different from past presidents, compared to only 14% who believe it is in line with precedent. And we're talking about at least 79% of Democrats, independents, and Republicans. So again, you can agree or you can disagree with Donald Trump, but what you can't disagree with is that he's doing things very differently. I have used the Frank Sinatra quote before. He is doing it, quote unquote, my way. And that is what Donald Trump has done throughout both of his presidential terms. And he's certainly doing that, Kate Baldwin, in term number 2.
So completely differently, clearly they agree, but is it, take it a step further, do the people think he has too much, he's taken too much power?
Yeah, this I think is the real question, right? You can believe that he's doing stuff completely differently, but do you think that he has a little too much power or not? And this is interesting. So Trump's presidential power is too much, the right amount, too little. Well, 47% say too much, but then you get 36% who say the right amount. Then you get 17% who say too little. So you're essentially dealing with a majority of the American public, 53%, who do not say that Trump has too much power. They either says he has too little power or the right amount of power. So the idea, that argument that Donald Trump is, quote unquote, a king, that I don't think holds with the American people. It does hold maybe with 47%, but with the majority of folks, they believe Donald Trump's doing something completely differently, and they don't believe he has too much power. And the executive orders he signed certainly suggest he's no lame duck. He is, as I said at the beginning, a soaring eagle.
All right. Wow, wow, wow. So I want to hear from you guys. Do you believe that President Trump is exercising too much power as POTUS, just the right amount of power, or actually too little power? You want him to be doing even more. I'm right in that, just enough. I'd like to see some more, but I think he's doing a great job. I fall in line with him doing a great job. Did you hear that? Even 79% of Democrats say they like that he's keeping his promises. That's kind of a shocker. That's a big, big deal. So I, for one, am very happy. Now, last week, I told you how Senator Adam Schiff and Elizabeth Warren want to investigate Trump for insider trading while ignoring Nancy Pelosi and others doing insider trading. Well, now minority leader in the Senate, Chuck Schumer, wants a crack at President Trump. The accusation of insider trading leveled against President Trump regarding his tariff policy decisions are baseless political movers lacking concrete evidence. Democrats, led by figures like Chucky Schumer, have seized on Trump's social media posts saying it's a great time to buy. However, he doesn't tell you what to buy. He just encourages you to be America first and to buy American companies. Now they're saying he manipulated the stock market and he needs to go down. But no proof exists that Trump or his allies publicly traded based on any kind of insider information about this particular Truth Social post. So, is this a lie to defame Trump, or is this a well-orchestrated scheme? Let me know your comments down below. Now, critics like Adam Schiff and Elizabeth Warren are demanding an investigation. They don't care about facts. They care about punishment of Trump and the Trump family. The White House has dismissed these allegations, saying that these are Democrat partisan attacks on the president and his family. Congressional financial disclosure due mid-May will clarify whether anybody, in fact, made an opportunistic play based on Trump's tweet or post, whatever you call Truth Social posts. Now, historically, insider trading is very hard to prove. You would have to prove that Trump told them, I'm about to put out a post that will make the stock market go back up or will encourage people to buy. But again, he doesn't label any specific stock or company. No name, no game, right? Now, I'm telling you, it's burning Chuck Schumer, Adam Schiff, and Elizabeth Warren up inside that Donald Trump is loved and appreciated, and that even their own party is saying, you guys are crazy, and we like this guy. He actually keeps his campaign promises. All right, listen to this. A Barack Obama appointed federal judge in Massachusetts, Indira Talwani, has temporarily blocked the Trump administration from ending the Biden-era CHNV program. The program, launched in 2022 and expanded in 2023, allowed 500,000 immigrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela to enter the United States under parole and get work authorization permits in order to make their way legally into the American country. Now, remember, they were attacking America every way they could, flying them in the middle of the night, giving them generous work permits, flooding small towns with 60,000 immigrants from one specific nation. On and on and on the examples go. Now, the woman that runs this program stated, if their parole status is allowed to lapse, plaintiffs will be faced with two unfavorable options: continue following the law and leave the country, or await removal proceedings. If plaintiffs leave on their own, they have a great shot of coming back. You didn't do anything wrong. But if you stay in the country, you've now broken the law and you will be blocked from returning to the United States, or you'll be put at the back of the line. And right now, that line is about 7 years long. Now, the ruling allows these migrants to work in the United States and not be removed, even though their contract is terminated. It's done. It's expired. So this Judge Talwani found the termination legally unsupported and warned Trump, do not keep these migrants in the United States. All right, speaking of migrants and deportation, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the El Salvadoran man deported under the Trump administration, won't be setting foot back in the United States anytime soon. Remember, the mainstream media said that Trump and his goons illegally took somebody who was not part of a gang and was here legally and removed him from the country. They're now saying, no, we have evidence that he's linked to these gangs and he's from El Salvador. So now El Salvador's president, Nayib Bukele, has shut this door firmly at the Oval Office. El Salvador President Bukele stated, "How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? Of course I'm not going to do it. The question is preposterous. Why do you want terrorists on the streets?" Isn't it a bit crazy that our own government was fighting for his return when his own president sided with President Trump's decision? So this man is part of the criminal gangs of El Salvador. And the president of El Salvador is saying, no, no, no. He's back in our country. He falls under our laws. And I am not going to break the law and sneak a terrorist back into the United States just because the Supreme Court or the mainstream media want it. You have no authority over El Salvador. Now, Bukele's comments came after President Trump welcomed him to the White House. And let me tell you, Trump does not seem bothered. In fact, on Truth Social, he wrote, "Our nations are working closely together to eradicate terrorist organizations and build a future of prosperity. President Bukele has graciously accepted into his nation's custody some of the most violent alien enemies of the world, and in particular, the United States. These barbarians are now in the sole custody of El Salvador, a proud and sovereign nation, and their future is up to President B and his government. They will never threaten or menace our citizens again." I love this. I think it's great. Again, if they are able to prove that this man was not part of a gang and legally is allowed to be in America, then he should be able to come back. But now you have the president of El Salvador saying, no, no, no. Even our own records say this guy needs to go to jail and we're not releasing him. I think that's why President Trump said El Salvador is a sovereign nation. Did you know that they used to have one of the highest murder rates in the entire planet? And now they're safer than almost every city in America. Pretty crazy how much has changed under President Bukele, excuse me. All right, now I have some big stories, including Whoopi Goldberg of The View telling Americans, suck it up and pay even more taxes. The government needs your money more than you. Yeah, to commit fraud. All right, let me tell you about today's sponsor. As we get older, it's not just our bodies that slow down, but our minds too. You might notice it's harder to focus. You forget little things or you don't sleep as well. It can be frustrating, but you don't have to live like that. Let me tell you about Clarity Plus from Brightcore Nutrition, a powerful brain-boosting supplement designed to help you stay sharp, focused, and mentally energized. Clarity Plus supports cognitive function, improves memory, helps you stay calm and clear-headed during the day. It also promotes deeper, more restful sleep. And let me tell you, everyone thinks better with good rest. Now, it's packed with some of these proven ingredients: ginkgo biloba, 5-HTP, ashwagandha, DMAE, and omega-3, plus full B vitamin complex. You guys, it's going to protect your brain and keep your mind strong for many, many years. Also, it's all natural, non-GMO, and made right here in the United States of America. It's a great product. I enjoy using it. Now, today, you can get 25% off. Just follow the link down below and use code Gardner. But I know you guys are smarter than that. Call 888-908-4425 to get up to 50% off plus free shipping. Why would you get 25% off when you can get up to 50% off plus free shipping? Just give them a call. Their team is incredible. All right, back to the news. The White House is planning to ask Congress to cut over $9 billion in pre-approved funding through a rescission package. The proposal, expected to be sent to Congress, returns on April 28th. Targets agencies Trump has long criticized, including NPR, PBS, USAID, and yes, the U.S. Institute of Peace. All of them pushing leftist Marxist agenda or just straight up stealing American taxpayer dollars. The plan would cut $9.3 billion from Corporation for Public Broadcasting, USAID, and state departments. That includes funding for electric buses in Rwanda, Sesame Street in Iraq, and some other bipartisan deals that Trump wants to get rid of. Oh, and get ready for even more good news for America. In continuing efforts to strengthen the United States, NVIDIA, one of the largest companies in the entire world, is planning to invest $500 billion over the next 4 years to make AI chips and supercomputers right here in the United States of America. We're talking about 100,000 good-paying jobs, and no more being dependent on Taiwan, no more being held hostage by China. These will be made right here in Texas and right here in Arizona. The company is building over 1 million square foot space to be able to build these incredible high-tech chips. It's going to be amazing. All right, now from a libertarian and Republican perspective, overpaying taxes equates to theft because it forcibly takes individual earnings without consent, violates personal freedom and property rights. Libertarians argue taxation beyond minimal government function is unjustified as it funds bloated bureaucracies and programs that often fail to deliver for the American people. Republicans echo this, emphasizing government inefficiency and the need for fiscal restraint. You guys know what I'm talking about. They take our money and they send it to countries that hate us. They take our money and they fund endless wars. They take our money, they give it to the homeless gets worse. They give it to drug addicts gets worse. They take it and they use our money to tell the world, flood the United States of America and get free money, free housing, free food, free cell phones. Well, no more. As you can tell, I get worked up as a libertarian. Taking my money through taxation is theft. Anything beyond basic government work is theft. I hope you guys understand that. Democrats say we need more of your money. Why? So you can steal it. And Republicans say if we just did things differently, we wouldn't need to tax people so much. Well, now Whoopi Goldberg of The View is telling Americans to suck it up, pay more taxes, and ignore the core issues of government: mismanagement, underfunding, stealing our money, poor performing schools, poor productivity, terrible systems for retirement, and yes, endless wars. All of that comes from just stealing our money, right? But let's go ahead and see exactly what Whoopi Goldberg of The View had to say. I know you guys just love hearing from her.
Well, you know, a 90-day pause doesn't mean anything to anyone because people are, as you say, struggling with everything they're living with on a day-to-day basis. Now you know what we're fighting against. But I also believe that it's very important to remind people that now is the time for each and every one of us to suck it up and make sure that we know what we need to take care of. If you're in an area where the school district is losing, then you got to pay a little more taxes and you got to help the schools out. If you're finding that your libraries are falling apart, you have to give more.
No. I actually don't have to give more, Whoopi Goldberg. And you're in trouble with your own taxes, and you're in trouble with telling somebody that you were racially profiled at a bakery, which ended up being a lie. They were able to prove that. Now, I'm hoping that Trump's tariffs and external revenue proposal will offset this. By taxing imports, tariffs could fund the government without directly burdening the citizens at all, or at least in a reduced manner. Now, I'm going to show you what President Trump had to say about taxes, and I think you're actually going to like what he had to say versus what Whoopi Goldberg had to say. Let me go ahead and bring that up on the stage, and we'll watch that together now.
Las aranceles van a reemplazar el income tax.
You know, you're the only one that's asked me that. Oh, I deal with all these big financial geniuses. Nobody ever. There is a chance that the money from tariffs could be so great that it would replace. You know, in the old days, about 1870 to 1913, the tariffs were the only form of money. And that's when our nation was relatively the richest. We were the richest.
So President Trump says Actually, the geniuses around me, they're saying we might be able to reduce or completely replace income from taxpayers. Now, imagine how much wealthier you would be, how the economy would boom, how things would seem easier, more affordable. You could go on vacation, buy that stuff for your kid or grandkid that you've always wanted to do. That's the power of the government not stealing your money. Sorry, I hate to harp on it. I really do believe that taxing us is stealing from us, but I'm just a guy on the internet, right? All right, listen to this. Congressman Pat Harrigan just exposed a huge security threat to the U.S. military. A few years ago, I covered on this channel China purposely buying farmland near military bases. Now, today, we are learning that 80 different bases have already been infiltrated by China. Concerns have been raised about Chinese-owned companies, particularly GNC, operating at over 80 retail stores on U.S. military bases. Republican Congressman Pat Harrigan argues this poses a national security risk, as these stores could collect data, sensitive data about the military personnel, missions. China, their company, Harbin Pharmaceutical Group, started buying bases, pharmacies, and little convenience stores, Fort Bragg's, for example. So basically, people from the Chinese Communist Party were able to buy and set up shops on military bases in America. So this guy is blowing the whistle saying, hold on, we definitely need to look into this. All right, final thing. As you know, President Trump has had the military take over the southern border. Basically, they've put in this corridor where now it's going to be almost impossible to get past all of the people that are down there on the border. It's amazing. Like they're getting less than 100 people a day, and then the people see this new military corridor, and they're like, no, thanks. We're not going to be doing that. All right, I forgot one last story. President Trump is angry at Ukraine. He's angry at Russia. They both say that they want to end this horrible war with thousands of people dying every single week, and yet they won't sign a peace agreement. They won't sign a mineral agreement. President Trump is now saying, we might take over your pipelines in order to keep Russia from attacking you and to get back our $200 billion. And Ukraine is saying, we don't want any American influence in Ukraine. We just want your money. We just want your weapons. So I don't believe Zelensky is operating in good faith. I think that makes Vladimir Putin not want to operate in good faith. I'm not saying Putin was operating in good faith. I'm just saying President Trump seems to be the only major player that wants this war to come to an end, and I hope it will very, very soon. All right, that's my update for today. What do you guys think about President Trump saying, hey, El Salvador, you can keep that criminal? What do you guys think about Whoopi Goldberg saying, pay more taxes? The government needs even more of your money. I want to hear from you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the channel and supporting me. I love you. Stay amazing, and I will see you on the